Have you noticed how some days feel scattered even when nothing is technically going wrong? Have you ever questioned whether your effort is consistent enough to be trusted by others or by yourself? Do you sense the quiet weight of decisions you revisit again and again instead of letting them settle? Have you felt how unreliable moments don't always come from failure, but from hesitation and drift? Do you ever wonder what it would feel like to move through life without needing to renegotiate your standards each day? And have you considered whether reliability is less about doing more and more about becoming steady? Becoming someone you can rely on isn't about intensity, motivation, or constant effort. It begins with reducing inner friction, closing the loops that drain attention, simplifying choices, and allowing certain decisions to become permanent. Reliability forms quietly, through coherence over time, not through moments of force. There is a particular kind of unease that appears when effort is high, but confidence is low. Life may look active from the outside, yet internally something feels unreliable. Plans shift, energy comes and goes, decisions are revisited too often. Many men recognize this feeling not as failure, but as instability. Not dramatic instability, something quieter, a sense that when pressure arrives, the ground inside does not always hold. This is not about lacking strength or intelligence. Often it appears in capable men who work hard, men who think deeply. But over time, they begin to notice a gap between what they intend and what they can consistently depend on in themselves. Not motivation, which rises and falls, not mood, which changes without warning, something more structural. The question that slowly forms is not how to become more driven, but how to become more dependable from the inside, how to become someone whose presence feels solid to himself even before it is felt by others. Becoming someone you can rely on does not begin with intensity. Intensity often masks fragility. It creates bursts of motion without continuity. Many men discover that the moments they feel most capable are not the loud ones, but the quiet ones, when attention narrows, decisions settle, and effort no longer needs to be negotiated. Reliability is often misunderstood as rigidity. In truth, it is closer to coherence. It is the alignment between what you value, what you choose, and what you can repeat without strain. When this alignment is missing, the mind becomes crowded. Every decision competes with alternatives. Every commitment feels provisional. Even rest feels incomplete because something unresolved remains in the background. This internal noise is not solved by pushing harder. Pushing harder often amplifies it. The issue is not insufficient force, but insufficient consolidation. Energy spreads across too many directions, each one plausible, none fully owned. Over time, this creates a subtle distrust in oneself, not because one fails dramatically, but because one rarely finishes settling. Men who become reliable to themselves often notice a shift that is difficult to describe externally. Their life does not suddenly become simpler, but their inner posture does. They stop negotiating with every impulse. They stop needing to redecide who they are each morning. Choices begin to carry weight, not because they are heavy, but because they are fewer and clearer. Discipline in this sense is not control imposed from above. It is the natural outcome of knowing what matters enough to hold steady. Desire becomes quieter, not weaker. Focus becomes narrower, not rigid. Direction emerges not as a grand vision, but as a refusal to fragment further. This is why reliability feels calming. When you trust yourself to act in accordance with your own structure, the mind rests, not because there is no pressure, but because pressure no longer threatens collapse. You know where you stand, and more importantly, you know you will still be there tomorrow, operating from the same center. Identity is often spoken about as something to be discovered or expressed, but for many men, identity becomes stable only when it is lived repeatedly under ordinary conditions, not in moments of inspiration, but in moments of fatigue, not when watched, but when alone. Reliability is the slow shaping of identity through consistency. When a man cannot rely on himself, his sense of self remains theoretical. He knows what he believes in, but not what he will uphold when circumstances change. This gap creates tension. He may speak clearly, yet act inconsistently. He may understand deeply, yet feel ungrounded. Over time, this erodes self-respect in subtle ways. Self-mastery is often imagined as domination of impulses. In practice, it looks more like discernment, knowing which impulses deserve space and which ones dissolve when not entertained, knowing the difference between rest and avoidance, between flexibility and drift. This discernment cannot be rushed. It forms through attention sustained over time. Many men notice that as they become more reliable internally, their external life reorganizes quietly. Relationships feel less reactive, work feels less scattered, even ambition changes tone. It becomes less about proving and more about building. The man is no longer chasing stability, he is carrying it. This does not mean certainty replaces doubt. Doubt remains, but it no longer dictates movement. Questions are held without urgency. The need for constant reassurance fades. What remains is a steady willingness to meet life as it is, without abandoning oneself in the process. Becoming someone you can rely on is not a transformation others immediately applaud. It is mostly invisible. It happens in the way decisions settle faster, in the way effort no longer feels borrowed, in the way silence becomes tolerable. There is a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you will not disappear when things become uncomfortable, not harden, not escape, not fragment, just remain present and coherent. This confidence does not announce itself. It does not need to. Over time, this steadiness becomes its own reward. Life still moves, pressure still arrives, but the center holds. You become less interested in intensity and more interested in continuity, less concerned with becoming impressive and more concerned with being dependable. And in that shift, something fundamental changes. Not how life treats you, but how you stand within it.